Okay, here we go. We're going live. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Clark, and I want to welcome you here tonight to our fourth Schindler Talk of 2025. I'm a registered architect and a volunteer with Friends of the Schindler House, and I work on the development committee, and I volunteer my time to help raise funds and awareness about the Schindler House. Friends of the Schindler House, or FOSH as we call it, manages the maintenance, preservation, and restoration of the Schindler House. And we're also working on a comprehensive master plan that will ensure the legacy of this modern treasure. It's my privilege to organize these talks. I've been doing this for a few years. And in fact, Valentina, who you'll meet in a minute, if you don't already know her, was one of the first Schindler talks that we hosted. I looked back about 4 years ago. So we were inspired by the salons that Rudolph and Pauline Schindler hosted at their house, the King's Roadhouse in West Hollywood, California. And we decided that we would like to create an online salon, if you will, and we call them the Schindler Talks. It was Pauline's attitude. Really, it was Pauline who was interested in bringing people to the table, so to speak, to talk about anything, conversations about music, art, philosophy, architecture, and I'm sure they had a little fun at the same time. So it's our intention to invite all of you into this conversation, and we would like you to participate in the sense of questions as they come up, comments as they come up. Please put those in the Q&A or the chat, and I'll be monitoring those as we get into the conversation. This is being recorded as well, and it will be on the Friends of the Schindler House YouTube channel. So you can share with your friends afterwards and watch it again if you like. Tonight, we'll be talking with Valentina Ganeva about her documentary film called Schindler Space Architect. It is her first film, and as I mentioned, I spoke with Valentina as she was launching this project 4 years ago. And tonight, I thought it would be fun to reconnect with her, and now that the film is complete, find out what that whole process was and where it's going. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Valentina, who was born in Bulgaria. She's a director, writer, producer, and editor. She's a graduate of the National Academy for Theater and Fine Arts in Sofia, and she holds a bachelor's degree in film history and theory, and made her mark as a freelance journalist for major Bulgarian publications. After relocating to Los Angeles, she became an executive producer at Murex Films, a Santa Monica-based post-production house. And during her time with the company, Valentina built an extensive resume as an editor as well. Her lifelong interest in art, architecture, and design merged with her knowledge and experience in video production, culminating in her first film, Schindler Space Architect. So I'm going to just mention a little bit about the film, and then I'll show a little trailer of the film, and then we'll get into the conversation. The documentary is narrated by Meryl Streep and Udo Kier and features some architects that you might know: Frank Gehry, Tom Main, Stephen Hull, Ray Kapp, Mark Mack, and some architectural historians as well: Judith Schein, Thomas Hines, Robert Sweeney, and members of the Schindler family, and more. The film explores Schindler's philosophy of space architecture, his impact on modern architecture in general, and delves into his complicated relationship with his mentor, Frank Lloyd Wright, and his friend turned rival, Richard Neutra. The film is joining the Oscar race now and in campaigning for Best Feature Documentary and Original Score, with the hope of bringing greater recognition to Schindler's legacy and to give him the attention that he deserves. There is going to be, and I'll let Valentina talk a little bit more about this, so a limited theatrical release in November, which she'll give us more detail on, and any other places and information about that. So I'm going to share right now hold on, the trailer. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, if you can make it, no, the sound is off and full screen.
Sound is off
You
again.
can make it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
In the 60s, Norman Foster, Archie Graham, they all came here to LA. They came for the case study houses, but they all started to discover Schindler.
Schindlers Räume fließen schnell. Sie sind Architektur des Rapid Eye Movement. Langsam kann man sie gar nicht sehen. Liquid spaces which are floating very fast.
When we come back to try to understand the sort of key elements that are at the heart of all architecture, proportion, human scale, space, natural light, material, and how material is detailed and expressed, Schindler stands at the top. It's an amazing accomplishment, given he had to do everything with the domestic scale.
I was studying at USC, and he came and gave talks there. While I was a student, I visited every one of his buildings. I spent a lot of time looking at all his work. And for me, in the end, he was the most important one that I could relate to. He was a local hero. We all were very inspired by him.
It's really hard to be a pessimist when you're living in such beauty. Actually, that beauty is all around all of us all the time, but Schindler knew how to read it and how to bring it in. So it was part of your life. That was his genius.
And then, unlike being a young architect, looking at Schindler and using that as your basis at the beginning of your work, it's more now finding connections of things that you find valuable in your own thinking about what architecture should or shouldn't be. And now there's this deep connection to Schindler as an architect, and very particularly to his house on Kings Road.
An outsider, on a path of his own, he was modern in the purest way. That he prevailed against all odds is a testament to his unique and lasting vision.
Schindler didn't wear socks.
Oh, there you had a little bit of that. So, Valentina, welcome, and
Thank you.
thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. I don't see you out there in the virtual space, but thank you to everybody that is tuning in to this Schindler talk today. And I'm really looking forward to discuss with you whatever might be of interest and tell you more about what's been going on with the film. We're already in some of the spaces that we filmed. I represent the 20s being in the Schindler house, a Schindler studio behind me as a backdrop, and Anne being in the Oliver house, which is a house from the 30s, the plaster skin design. And I think you saw actually a little footage of that house in the trailer as well. Actually 4 years ago when we did the Schindler talk, it wasn't the beginning of the project. It was kind of, I was halfway through it because the project started 13 years ago in 2012.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you, just starting from the beginning, how did you decide to go down this path with Rudolf Schindler?
Yeah, well, I was approached by somebody who is in the film, James Rega, who had restored a couple of Schindler houses. At that time, he was living in, he had restored the Pueblo Ribera court. And then he was restoring at that time the Kuhn House by Richard Neutra. And I was in a transitional period. I just had closed my studio in Santa Monica and kind of was looking to figure out, like, what am I going to do next in my life? And he suggested, because he saw I had a free time, so he was like, well, would you like to make a short film about the restoration of Pueblo Ribera, which he received an award for that restoration, actually, from La Jolla society. And I was like, well, that sounds really interesting. Why not? And then he kind of casually mentioned, if we, if it goes well, then maybe we'll do a big film on Neutra, because, as I said, he was restoring, he had restored also the Kuhn House and had received an award for that restoration as well. So I went into kind of to do my own research. And as I was going through it, I found out that for me personally, Schindler was much more interesting as an architect. And also being kind of the quintessential underdog, he never really got the recognition he deserved. Always kind of ahead of the curve. And as we know, with all the creative people that are ahead of their times, by the time the rest catch up with them, nobody even remembers that they came up with the idea 10 years before that or something like this. So Neutra, who I really value very much as an architect, I felt was much more somebody who had who brought something from Europe with himself, which was the international style coming from the Bauhaus. And he kind of developed that style, improved on its own kind of way in connection to the location being in California. But he didn't really come up with, he didn't invent anything. And Schindler was the ultimate inventor. I mean, he's even considered the architect who has the most inventions. He was constantly improving and coming up with new construction systems to support his idea of space architecture, because there were always some restrictions, and trying to break those restrictions, he would just invent new things. And that inventiveness to me, that originality, also the fact that as a person he was like a rebel and a bohemian, all that was very dear to my heart. And I felt much more like connected to him as a person and as a creative person as well, and wanted to make a film about him. So I went back to James and I said to him, well, I feel like if we do a small film on the restoration of Pueblo and then we do a big film on Neutra, I'm just going to be part of another injustice done to this man, and I don't want that. So I would like to make a big film about Schindler. And he agreed to that and kind of supported the initial efforts to make the film. And then he wasn't able to support it financially anymore, and he kind of went on his own way. I went onto my own way and kind of had to make a decision. Do I wrap it up? Do I keep going? And for me, the film was not, it was far from being ready. So I was at that point very emotionally involved, and I couldn't just.
So how many years is this now before you decided?
Well, this is like probably 5 years after.
5 years into it.
Yes, so I don't know what year we did the Schindler talk before that. I don't know if I was still
21.
was it before COVID, after COVID?
It was in COVID.
In COVID. Okay, so that was before COVID when he stepped out. So yes, because I know that I created my the first fundraising campaign I did was in 2019. So kind of
Okay.
2018, I was trying to do the things on my own, and 17, something like that. And then I had to create an LLC, find a fiscal sponsor so I could have tax deductible donations, looking for grants and so on. So after that, there was a long period of fundraising and filming and having new people come on board to help. And the amazing part has been that there was always somebody coming to help, and push forward. And I feel like in some ways, Schindler's spirit, inspired a lot of people to really contribute to kind of, help me finish this film. So at some point I had the second cinematographer, Danny Duchovny, joined, who was very quintessential in his approach to filming all the archival material, coming with a concept about that, so we make it more interesting. He also created fake archives in the film and a lot of other stuff, brought his crew from his days as a commercial director of photography. So they worked for free, which helped us to film a lot of other interiors that were missing because, you know, Schindler is all about interior space. And I didn't have
Right.
enough interiors at that time. So with that second crew, we shot like the Lovell House, the interior, the Bach House interior, the...
Want me to pull up some of those images?
Yeah, you were in one of those interiors. So Oliver House, we shot with that crew. And then, I don't know, I don't see the images to like the Lovell House and the Bach House, which is in the trailer. Also were shot at that point. So the Rodriguez house, the interior of the Rodriguez house, the inside shot, the other shot. We had like an exterior shot. This shot we filmed in 2012 or 13 with Jacek, the first one. And then in 2020, I believe we filmed the interior shot with that crew that Danny brought on board. And the same thing was with the next photo. If you go to the Oliver house, no, going down, yeah, that house, the interior was filmed in after COVID, the exterior was filmed in 2012. And so there's like a lot of spaces. And the same thing goes with some of the, especially Mark Mack, which we always like are joking about it because Mark Mack appears in the film. He's an Austrian architect for the one who are not familiar, living in Los Angeles and working in Los Angeles. And Mark, you know, I filmed like 3 different interviews with him. And the first one is in 2012 and the last one is in 2022. So he's got like 10 years of, you know, difference between some of them. But luckily he still had the same, he had saved the same shirt that he was wearing in 2012 and he was able to fit inside of it. So so I try to cheat it that way, you know, so it's not, doesn't jump too much. But he has aged in, as he says, in an hour and a half, I had aged 10 years.
Well, did it. Well, so, somebody in our audience, Eric, said he's ironically been shooting the entire restoration of Neutra's Lovell Health House since October 2021. In the process of doing so, researched and realized how influential his mentor was. I think his mentor would have been, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like just what you said, Valentina, when there was that kind of time gap, did people, or did you, like, what was your sort of process of learning, or I don't know, experiencing these places in that amount, that time gap, I guess, of 10, 12 years? And did any of the people that you brought back into the house, well, I mean, these are mostly architects you're talking about, but did they have other things to say, or did you kind of come back to them with different kinds of questions in that time period?
Well, the people I interviewed were different people in this house. And the Oliver house, it's like the picture is right now on screen. I don't know if that's what the other people see as well, but the house where you're in, that environment, this was the first time we did an interview with the owner, who Noelle Osherov, and she's a very interesting person because Noelle was the little girl that grew up in this house. There's like a book about Schindler's furniture, and in that book there is a photograph of her and her brother sitting on the kitchen nook, on the table on the kitchen nook in this house, and so having her in the film, it was really very that was really a very important moment for me because Noelle was able to kind of bring the humanity of telling a little story about growing in the room, how that affected her, how the light in the room affected her, the connection to the nature, how affected her and her brother in a way that they lived their lives afterwards, and how she always, because she didn't live in the house when she was older, but she would always look for a place that somehow reminded her of the house, or the light was like that, or was connected to nature the way Schindler had done that in this house. So it was really interesting to have her speak about her experience. And again, that was something we filmed much later. And things like this were really important to me. That's why I didn't wrap up the film in 2017 or 18, whatever was at that point, because I just felt like I'm missing a lot, you know, and I didn't even know exactly what sometimes, but I knew it's just, there's not enough what's there, this is just, I need to go further and find my characters and, and the locations. Talking about, and then there's also another kind of interesting moment is that Danny created this kind of fake film movies for this house, because no, I'm talking about the other house. You don't have that shot.
Oh.
What he did is like he had like this old film rolls from the time, as I said, he used to be a commercial director, and he would shoot like sometime 8mm or 16mm film for the commercials to create like just like to spice it out, And he was like, well, let's go and see, maybe we'll film some stuff with this old film and just brings a little bit more life to the film. And we did, and we have this kind of color footage of the house at that time, which in a film which looks like it's an old footage, but it's actually it was shot at the same time as the shot you're looking at right now. But it really works when the old woman tells her story, remembering about past times, and then you show that footage, and it just kind of makes a connection, because we didn't really had any footage from the time original to show. So we had to be very inventive that way to just kind of, get the story moving forward.
So did her parents commission Schindler to build the house?
Yes, her father was a theater critic, and her father has gone to the Schindler house in the 20s. And he absolutely, she tells the story, when her dad went back home after that party, he went there to cover some event as a theater critic. There was some dance event. Maybe it was the John Bovington dancing, nude dancing, who knows, something like that. I don't remember right now. And he had seen the Schindler house, and he goes back home, not at this house, whatever they're living, and basically tells his wife, I found the architect that will build one day our house. It's just, he was so blown away by the Schindler house. He wanted Schindler to build his own home. And when they, in the 30s, got to that lot, and, he had the money, whatever situation to make that happen, he hired Schindler to design the house. And they were like a very close friends. Noelle was friends with all that, all these people that would kind of, come to the house. She was very close friend with the Freemans. She actually took care of Harriet Freeman when she was dying at the end, and had some objects from her, and interesting stories, because one of the stories, okay, I'll go into the gossip now part. People usually always,
I was going to ask you, like, what were some of the things that you learned while you were surprised by when you were?
Yeah, well, one of the stories is like people always, and it's written a lot, that, supposedly Schindler didn't get the commission to the Lovell Health House because he had an affair with Lovell's wife, Leah Lovell. Lovell didn't like that. So, and this is kind of the version that's everywhere. Well, Noelle told me that actually Schindler had an affair with Leah's sister, Harriet Freeman, who is the wife of a Freeman who did the Freeman House by Frank Lloyd Wright, right? So they all kind of interconnected, all these people, and they had a very kind of a long affair and a very close relationship, and they used to go out in town, three of them. Harriet, her husband, and Schindler, so I don't know what was exactly going on, but seems like he was okay. Seems like he was okay with what was happening. So yeah, so it's a really, they were all bohemians. It was a lifestyle. It was a way they, it wasn't like a big deal for them at that time, I guess, for that kind of a group of artistic bohemian people that were, in the film, I actually go into that a little bit. I try to stay away from too much of a kind of, tantalizing stories, but I have a little chapter on Oceano Dunes, and that is where like a lot of that community of bohemians were like congregating, and and a lot of people passed through it. And Gavin Arthur, who's the son of the president, Arthur, so I forgot his first name. He was bisexual man, and he had this kind of a it was one of the first kind of community that was dealing with gay rights and, publishing stuff about that and so on in the 30s at the Oceano Dunes. And Upton Sinclair stopped by there, and Ansel Adams and Edward Weston photographed the dunes. All these famous photographs of the dunes that they have are from that period. Neutral went there as well, and Schindler and Pauline Schindler and John Cage and a lot of people. Galka Shire went there as well. So it was just kind of one of those places where a lot of these artists, kind of met, and I guess they had a really interesting conversation. I would have loved to be there and hear those conversations around the fireplace at night. In the
Yeah.
It's been very magical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges? I mean, I think you already mentioned, this kind of time frame. I don't know if that was a challenge or that was something that you kind of imposed on yourself because you wanted to kind of continue the study and sort of exploration.
No, I actually had to raise the money. That was the challenge, and that's why it went so long. That's why it went so long. The research was done, much earlier in the film. And I had I wasn't researching. I was basically, after 2017, I was fundraising and trying to figure out ways to fundraise or find people that will come and donate their services, donate their equipment, help me along the way. And I had to myself stop working because there was so much to do. So it was like after, you just have to devote all your time on it, or, it doesn't get anywhere. So I had to also use my own savings kind of to keep going. And that was also very challenging, to kind of live in a very shoestring budget and so on, and then fundraise and move the project forward. But it all worked out at the end. So I'm very happy, no regrets, I think, and I think in some ways, like my story, kind of, in some ways, there is similarity with Schindler's story because, and maybe that's why I feel so close to him because, I think he was also, I mean, it's obvious by the way he did stuff in his life, but he was a person that it wasn't driven by the money really. For him, like once he takes a project, even in a small budget, he would do the most he can give to that project because to him was about creating this, beautiful spaces that well-designed spaces where people can live in a decent way. So even if they don't have much money, he would then, in those restrictions, figure out how to make it to be like that. And also sometime I even discovered that, he would give from his own money in order to get it done the way he wanted to be done. So, and I'm very much that way myself too. So once I get something like committed to a project or something, for me, it's like I can't really just wrap it up because there is no money, or, I have to find the ways to make it, the best I could make it. Somebody could make it better, but that's kind of, I have to give my best. So, and I think he always was a person that always gave his best, which I very, very much kind of, appreciate and I admire as well.
I think you were sort of picked out of the universe to do that film by Schindler posthumously.
Maybe it's my
What
mission.
What is that?
It's my mission in life. It turned to be my mission in life.
Could you explain or describe some of the different reactions of the film by architect versus layperson, who may or may not have known about Schindler, who have seen this film now?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say that, we managed to finish the film in 2024, just to give us some time frame. And it actually premiered at the Architecture and Design Film Festival in New York, and then was shown at the other editions of the festival in Vancouver, Toronto, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Mumbai, India. And then after that, the film had a very successful run on many film festivals, starting with Newport Beach, Palm Springs, Miami Jewish Film Festival. It went to Sofia International Film Festival, I can't remember all of them, but right now it's going to 5 festivals. It just was at Baltic Pearl in Latvia. It's going to FIFAC, which is the Architecture Film Festival in Bordeaux on October 5th. It has a screening there. October 13 and 14, it has screenings at the Architecture Film Festival in Rotterdam. October 16 and 17, it has screenings at Bergen International Film Festival. That's in Norway. After that, it's going to Arch Film Sweden. And
How about Boston? Somebody wants to know when we can see it in Boston.
so Boston, unfortunately, I applied to the film festival, but it didn't get in there. So I would say, before I forget, to everybody, please go to the website of the film, which is www.rms, which is the 3 initials of Rudolf Michael Schindler, rmsdocumentary.com. And there, under contact, you could sign the mailing list. And once you're on the mailing list, basically what I do is I send notification when there is events like this one, or film festivals or screenings. And then this way you could be kept updated on whenever the film comes to your town. I know that right now we have scheduled actually 4 screenings next year in March in Portland, Maine. So we're going to be in that area. We're going to be at the Portland Museum of Art, at Colby College, at the University of Maine, Augusta, and I think at Rockland, there is a Strand Theater. There was screening as well. And then maybe in May, I just got approached from Honolulu, like Axel Schmusberger, who is in the film as well. They kind of want to organize some screening there as well for the students and for this other organization. I'm sorry, I don't remember their name right now, but working on that as well. So it's going to be a lot of screenings like that way, organized around the country. And if you sign the mailing list, then you could be informed for whatever is coming your way or close by. So where was I before this? The
different reactions.
Yes, the reactions. Yes. Sorry about that.
People who are not architects.
Yes. I remember now. So anyway, and then there was screenings also in some universities, and like at the Architecture and Design Center in San Francisco. That was at UC Berkeley. Basically going to I didn't go to all these places because of course budget, constraints, but I managed to go to some of the festivals where I had places I could stay, like New York and Vancouver and Chicago. And I went to San Francisco, and then the screenings here, to Berkeley as well. So I was able to have some connection with the audience, like with the Q&A and the conversations. And the amazing thing to me was that architects came to me after the screening and said they loved the film, starting with like Tom Main and Stephen Hall, which are the both kind of, ends of America, East and West Coast. They both loved the film. A lot of other architects also came to me and said, I love your film because I learned so much. I thought I knew a lot about Schindler, but actually I learned so much more by watching your film. And to me, that's like an incredible compliment, because coming from them specifically, on that level. And then the people that came that were maybe friends of the architects or designers or friends of whoever that somehow, or have kind of a general interest in arts, they were all very moved by the story. By Schindler's life, by his struggle. And I think that is something that everybody can connect to, everybody that's a creative person, everybody that's kind of had to make those choices in life. And even if you're not a creative person, but when you have to make those choices, like, okay, do I stay true to my own vision, to my truth, or do I succumb to whatever is, we're all exposed to that right now, where we have to make decisions, in this environment right now. We have like, okay, so, all these universities, do we stand up and keep our freedoms, protect our freedoms, or do we, succumb to the administration and to the demands they're having on us? So it's very much, I think the film now, it's even more than ever relevant on that level, because it talks about a person that, kind of stood by his own beliefs And it wasn't easy. And it's never an easy life when you do that. But I think that's the only way to really make a difference and have some contribution, if that's something that's of interest of you, as that, of course, because some people don't care about that. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, Doris asked, is this gonna be on YouTube or on, streaming at some point?
So usually the way how it goes with distribution, the films first have theatrical release, then goes to television broadcasting, and then it goes to streaming, which is the last venue, because once it's on streaming, then it's available to everybody. So right now, I have submitted the film for awards consideration for Best Documentary Feature and Original Score. And in conjunction with that, we're going to have a limited theatrical release in Santa Monica, at Lemley, Santa Monica. And that theatrical release will be from November 7th till November 13th, 3 screenings a day. And I will probably do at least after one screening every day, a Q&A with a different person I'm going to invite, architect or somebody from the film crew, or maybe a moderator like Ellen Hess. I talked to him, and I talked to Francis Anderton as well, to come and do Q&A after the screenings during the theatrical release. So for whoever is in LA, I highly recommend, once you're on the mailing list, you actually will know what exactly is happening when. But it will be wonderful if you come to see the film and support the release. We'll probably have some events in conjunction with that as well. Then after this is done, I might have a small theatrical release around the country. I'm looking into it in theaters like Lemley, like art houses. And then after that, I've already have been in talks with PBS SoCal. There's a program called Artbound, which probably a lot of you are familiar. And they would like to air the film in May. I just need to prepare a slightly different version for them, which is slightly shorter, like 85 minutes version, with their logos, and they have a different way, like credits and so on. They have a whole different kind of way of doing that stuff. The unfortunate part is that I have to start fundraising for that too, because all they pay is $5,000. And I'm supposed to pay for delivering that version, which will be more than $5,000. So don't be shocked if you see me fundraising for that, after New Year. So I have to deliver that version by March, and then they would like to air it in May. So that's that. And then after that, going to the streaming, after those options are exhausted, then probably I would think probably like the summer or the fall, I will, have some streaming in place. And again, if you're on the mailing list, all that information will be released as it's happening. Also, I usually post about that on the Instagram account of the film, which is, again, at RMS Documentary. There is an account also on Facebook under the same handle.
RMS Documentary page.
RMS Documentary, yes. So I try to keep it uniform, and I think there is a LinkedIn also account if you're there for the film.
I don't know if you can see it. People can't see the chat for some reason. I don't know why. I have some more questions, just sort of more about the film. How did you direct the filming of these spaces, from a filmmaker's perspective?
Well, Schindler Spaces are very, very challenging to photograph. Like everybody who's tried to photograph them knows that. And one of the reasons why his architecture, especially when he was alive, was not very well covered. One, that he didn't have time for it. Second, he didn't care so much about promoting himself. He was more busy building. But also, he felt that he wasn't happy how his spaces were photographed, because he felt it wasn't coming through. And it's true, it's much easier to photograph a house built by Neutra or Miss Van der Rohe, because, you have this flat surfaces for walls, flat roof. It's just very easy to read the space. With Schindler, like we could see in the environment that's right behind you in the Oliver House, there is all these different kind of, movements happening and intersections, and you have the roofs and you have the clerestories triangle, and here it's like this and like that. And it's really difficult to photograph and even more difficult to film, because when you move through the space, it's like, again, you see just part of it. So for me, when I was talking to Jacek, because we started the project with Jacek initially, he was the person I started the film with in 2012. My first kind of thing to him was kind of, what I asked for was, for Schindler, it's always very important, the connection with the outside, bringing nature into the life of people, either through framing, the way he would frame, the windows, what we see behind, or the way, the indoor and outdoor are connected, like we have in the Schindler house behind me, where it's like the living rooms are is the courtyard with the outdoor fire space. And also in the Oliver House where you are, there is all this space like on your right, where you go into this huge kind of, open area yard, and then and there is another step, and then there is the lake, the Silver Lake, because that house is in Silver Lake. So I said to Jacek, I want to go like from out in, or from in out, like maybe like a long pan, so we could see the environment. And the challenge with that is that when you go from in to out, or vice versa, you have two absolutely different exposures. So that's why a lot of photos, if you have the in and out, one part is burned out, because it's always the exposure is for one place. You can expose for two places simultaneously. Right. So Jacek, who is like an incredible cinematographer, he's a member of ASC, of PSC, which is the kind of the club of the best cinematographers, in America and in Poland. And also he teaches actually classes on light. What he did, he would have, and that's where a lot of the money went. That's why this film was quite expensive, filming it, because first he said, like, we're going to film all these environments with Alexa camera, which is the most expensive digital camera, the closest one to film. And also we'll need to have like a real crew, like gaffers and grips, and with all the like different lights and, all kind of the different toys to make things work, right? To create a shot. Yeah. So, and then he had like assistant always, and he would do these pans where he would start from the outside. The assistant will be changing focus as he's moving through the space, because it's a pan. So as we move, things, the focus changes, right? So we have to change focus as it's moving. And then he will simultaneously change the exposure as he's moving. So it could always have the right exposure for the light we're in, outdoor or indoor. So because of that, we had to do sometime 10, 12 takes for one shot to get the shot, because there were three elements that had to work from the beginning to the end of that pan: focus, exposure, and then the move to be smooth of the pan, of the camera move. So it was really a very challenging thing. Not many cinematographers can do that. And I was very blessed to have him. And we both were very committed to that. And therefore, now I get a lot of comments from audience saying like, I don't know, but I really get that feeling that I was inside of these houses. I really felt how it was to be inside of these houses. And I think that's why it is, because of the way he filmed it, the way he did this long pans, and everything was lit, and everything was like, in a way, he would have all these different lights, so he can bring up this window or that window, the shadows. I mean, there's just like so much going on in every shot has been like composed very carefully, and a lot is going on in every shot to be what it is.
Yeah, it looks perfect. Did you have to wait for certain kinds of days? I mean, in terms of the exterior light, or were there days where? you had scheduled and then
There's
said,
no,
no.
there's no luxury like that because
No.
first of all, I had to organize free time that owners have of the houses, Then I had to have people, most of them working for half rate or for free, that are committed. And I'm talking about crew that's like 14 people, right? That's not like 2 people going and flexible. 14
Yeah.
people crew, and then you have equipment that you have to make the rental. It's like, so it's all set up for purchase
Yeah.
today. So there's not much flexibility there. Once you set it up, the shoot, you have to do
Gotta
it.
make it work. Yeah.
And you make it work. I mean, I think in general we were lucky most of the time. I mean, there's some places that would have been nicer to be a different, like have a different light or different clouds, but I think all overall it's not a problem in the film. There's no place where you feel like, oh, this looks like it's a horrible time of the day or something like that. So.
Probably not. Yeah. Did you want to talk a little bit more about Danny Duchovny's work? The
Yeah.
other
So
cinematographer? I bring up
yes,
those images.
yeah, of course, of course. So Danny, yes, Danny, when he came on board was a little bit before COVID. And, I've known him from back from the times when I was an editor. And, I used to edit his director's reel when, commercial director reel. And I was very close friends with his partner, Linda Stewart, who was the executive producer of their company at the time, Cucoloris. And Linda unfortunately passed away from cancer, and we kind of bonded together when she was dying. And he came back to me after that because he was very grateful the way I was with her and those last moments of her life, and said, I want to help you finish your film. And he said, I'm going to go to our crews, the people we worked with when I was, Linda was a producer and he was a director. Because he said these people made tons of money with, they were doing big commercials like Bank of America and Chevy Malibu, like that kind of style, a lot of money. And he said, they all made a lot of money working for us and we were very good to them. And I'm going to tell them that, I want to do this in Linda's memory. And that's why she's mentioned in the end credits of the film as well. And all these people, they came to help because of that. They were like, okay, we'll give you 3 days of shooting, which is a lot because, each of these days with the equipment and the people they brought is probably at least like $20,000, $25,000. So that's right there. It's like $60,000 of value that they brought.
Yeah.
All I had to do is just pay the gas and buy them food. So which, was my pleasure to do. And I made sure that we all ate at good places because, at least, and have a good coffee and all that stuff. But they were all wonderful people. And that's how we filmed a lot of the interiors. Which was one thing that I had conveyed to him that, he says, well, what do you need to finish the film? Because, I was like in that space at that time where I'm like, I'm not happy. There is still missing stuff. He's like, well, what do you need? And I said, well, I need more interiors because I have a lot of exterior, but I need more interior. So he went and he got that part taken care with that crew. And then he said my archival footage at that time, was just like photos, like temps, whatever, low resolution, whatever I had, gathered. And I was kind of thinking about how to deal with that stuff. Now, I personally don't like recreations or like I don't like also too much digital effects or like because all that stuff gets old very fast. So I didn't really want to go in the direction of like, oh, somebody can animate or or do anything fancy that's like fancy now, but in 5 years, just like the music videos from the 80s, when you look at the effects there, it's kind of it's kind of hilarious. So I didn't want that to happen to my film, especially with AI going so much forward, so fast. I didn't want it to be outdated with some kind of an old technology. So then, so I was thinking even to go the most simple way, with the photos, like but still wasn't sure exactly how. And then he said, like, listen, why don't you print all the photos, bring it to my home? He lives in Malibu, so he says, I'm going to turn like one of the rooms into a studio, and I'm going to pull out like all the old lenses and cameras and like different props and things and lights, and I'm going to buy some stuff, and we'll just like film the photographs with lights, and we'll bring some more life into them and make it more like handmade, which I absolutely loved, because that's just so much connects to Schindler being
Mhm.
like also like that craftsman feeling, which, you know, they always did their own, they did their own lamps in the Schindler house, as we know, with the paper.
Yeah,
It was just always about like, you know, just try to make it yourself, try to make it, you know, handmade and more organic. And that's exactly what he did with that stuff, which I think really brought the film in a whole other level. And then the other thing he created, again, he pulled this old film, as I said, for the Oliver House was color, and then the picture you see, it's on screen right now. That was from the Kings Road house. We didn't have any footage of the Kings Road house from the 20s. I discovered, you know, by accident, some almost that footage from a film that Esther McCoy has done, where there is one frame of Schindler, one shot of Schindler with his dog Prince, but that's from the 40s in a film called Architecture West. But there was nothing from the 20s except a little like a one shot in a film of Buster Keaton where you see the Schindler house in the background.
Oh,
Yeah, that's in a film called The Young Sherlock Holmes. And there's like a chase with motorcycles, and the Schindler house is on the back. And that's actually shot, is in the film as well, in a iPod kind of framed. So anyway, so Danny was like, well, why don't you get one of your girlfriends and let's dress her up like bohemian, you know, chic, whatever, and we'll film her in the Schindler house dancing around with like Super 8 camera, like, you know, black and white, and we'll try to make it to look from the time. And then, you know, I kind of, you know, I had this Russian friend, Christina, that you see here, and I thought she was perfect face for kind of, she carried that thing, you know, of that era. And another girlfriend of mine who is also like a designer, she came up with the outfit. She had this couple
Nice.
outfits, and she said, well, pick up one, whatever you think. So I picked up this one. And then, you know, we did that little, and it was very short amount of footage of her dancing and on the porch. But in the end, after I saw the footage, I was like, really loved it. And I thought, well, she could represent Schindler's Muse. So that's what in my mind she became, the Schindler's Muse. And that's why the film starts with her kind of welcoming everybody into the Schindler's world. And she's kind of a little thread going through the film.
that's really fascinating. I like. I mean, I haven't, obviously I haven't seen the film, but I think that the layering of this kind of element in it must be really, it kind of gives it another level, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, and maybe that's why people, you know, most of people, I haven't, you know, I don't know, maybe there's some people that hate the film, but so far everybody's like always, you know, they stay for a long Q&As and they say to me, we really love your film. And I think one of the reasons is because it's done with a lot of heart, not just from me, but from everybody else that came on board,
Yeah.
you know, going
A
forward.
lot of
Even the
people
people
join
that
you.
put the money, you know, that gave me money, they gave it from the heart. So it's like, there's a lot of love in this film.
Yeah.
And that's why at some point I was calling my campaigns Schindler Love, because I felt like there's a lot of that in it.
Well, speaking of that, there's one slide here that was um, stuck. Oops. Oh, here we go. Can't get it. And the correspondence, I'm going to try and get this up, but I can't seem to work it now. Between Ellen Jansen and Rudolf Schindler.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A bit about that. I don't know.
Yeah,
what.
that's the last slide you had there.
Yeah,
Before
I know,
this
and
slide was the last one.
stuck.
Well, that was something also that was really, it's very special in the film. Because, you know, Schindler had many affairs, but he had one lover that was like from the somewhere late 20s, I believe. For sure, 1930, they were already involved because there is a correspondence from that time. all the way to his death. And he actually died in her house, and the house that he built for her, which is the Jansen house. And that house is the first from the translucent houses that he did. That was a concept he had in 1927. He had a design for Alan Barnsdown for a house, to make a house for her that was a translucent house in, I think in, where was that house? In Palos Verdes. That project never came through. But in 1948, I think, he actually, yeah, those are the letters at the end. He actually, but we could show them after that or whatever you want. He actually did, she came back to live in Los Angeles, and he made this house for her, which is called the Jansen House, where he, for the first time, experimented with translucent material. It's really interesting because he dies in that house at the end. And I remember talking to this artist who had a residence at MAC, Kostis Velonis, who was obsessed with Alan Johnson. And he made that point that it's really interesting because the first house he did, which is the Schindler house, the Kings Road house where I'm in, which is from his first period, 20s, the concrete period. This house is very much about material. It's, it's a concrete, right? Exposed concrete. And then the house that he made for the woman that was like the love of his life, obviously, even though they were both polyamorous, they both had tons of affairs, but they were always in contact. That house is translucent house, and that's where he dies. And it's kind of an exit also for him to, so I thought it was a very poetic, actually, thing going on there. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's kind of an interesting thought. So anyway, Ellen and Schindler had a correspondence that went through all these years. She lived like in Seattle, in San Francisco, in Washington, D.C. She was kind of a gypsy, a little bit in her ways. She was also very bohemian. They both had tons of lovers, but they would always get together. So again, it's just a lifestyle. I know it's not, for everybody, but that was their thing. She was friends with Pauline. Actually, they were very good friends. Pauline stayed with her when she left Schindler certain time at Halcyon. And so this correspondence was discovered. I can't remember exactly the year, but a woman that lived in the Johnson house after Ellen passed away discovered that correspondence, and then she put it on sale for
You found the
other.
correspondence in the house? They were in the house?
Yes, yeah, and she put it on sale at Sotheby, and so the collection of all these letters went to a private collector, and so never was really shared. So I was able to have this correspondence for the first time in the film. We're reading a couple of letters from Schindler to Ellen and from Ellen to Schindler, and also we filmed those letters that you're seeing in that frame, envelopes and letters between them.
Wow.
So, and it's kind of a very interesting thing to go into it. I didn't use a lot of it because, Schindler, when he knew he was dying because he died from cancer. He asked his son to burn Mark Schindler. He asked Mark Schindler to burn all his correspondence, everything that was in the house. And Mark did, because, maybe there were a lot of intimate stuff that he didn't want to come out. I'm not sure why exactly, but so there is no really other correspondence except like a couple of letters, like some things between him and Tishwar, I think, and there's several things that are more like business connected, but like personal stuff. Maybe Frank White Wright, a couple of letters, and that's about it. So this was a big find, to have in the film.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm thinking even one day, I'm kind of considering, but I don't know how to go about it yet, but I'm considering making a book that has like the full interviews, because of course in the film you could also only use part of the interviews with all these like architects. Maybe have a book with full interviews, slightly edited, but most of them, the architects with Mary Schindler, who is Schindler's daughter-in-law. That's the only interview she has given where she goes in detail. She lived at the Schindler house and she talks about Pauline and the relationship and, you know, a lot of stuff that's not really out there published anywhere.
Mm.
And I think it could be very interesting to put that together, maybe the letters and some other stuff that I unearthed as I was working on the film. But have to see, you know, and there's a lot of also Schindler now, it's a public domain. So we could use a lot of also, you know, drawings and things like this in the book and
Sure.
photographs from the film and maybe interviews with people that are in the film and so on that worked on the film. So it could be an interesting compilation, but don't have a time for it right now. So
Yeah, not yet. And so yeah, we didn't talk about this, but Meryl Streep and Udo Kier, how did you bring them onto this project? And
well, you know, it's
what was it like working with them and
yeah.
what like the narration of it and their role is part of this visual medium.
Yeah. Well, I was initially trying very hard to get, like my mind was set on Christopher Waltz. I wanted very much Christopher Waltz to narrate Schindler because I felt him being an Austrian that lives in America, in Los Angeles, actually, also with interest in architecture. His daughter is also an architect. I thought like he was the perfect person for that. And I tried very hard. I don't give up easy. I even managed to get through Mark Schindler, Schindler's grandson. We wrote to his daughter in Israel, who is an architect, to try to put us in touch with him and so on. So finally, we got in touch with him. But and that was actually after Meryl Streep was already in the recorded the narration, but he didn't want to do it. So I don't know why he refused it. Maybe because there was no money. All these actors worked for just SAG rate, which is like, I don't know, remember how much, but maybe, I don't know, maybe around $3,000 or somewhere there, like, or 5,000, I don't know, really not a lot of money. And so I was like trying to figure out what am I going to do. And Xander Berkeley, who narrates the voice of Frank Lloyd Wright in the film, who is an old friend of mine, he basically said, well, I'm a friend with Udo Kier, and he's a German actor. Okay, it's not Austrian, but it's German speaking, and he's a great guy and great actor. And not only that, but in some ways, for me at least, you know, I thought about it like, well, Udo is also like, just like Schindler, because he is very well known among actors and people that are like in the know, you know, from the audience. And he's been in the films of very, very famous directors. Like he's in every film of Lars von Trier. He was in Gus Van Sant, My Private Idaho. He's been like just in tons of movies, but he started with Andy Warhol. He played Dracula in the Andy Warhol film with Morrissey. So anyway, so Udo is kind of the person. He's very much like, he's not in the mainstream, but yet he's very well known. And then he's an outsider at the same moment. So, and he's an artist, not just an actor, right? And he loves architecture, and he's very much collector of also like of modern architecture and furniture and stuff like this. He lives in Palm Springs in a house. I mean, not a house. He bought the Albert Frey Public Library and turned it into a living space. So he's very much connected with all that, you know, stuff. And it made sense to me. So I said, yeah, he's German, but so what? And, you know, I approached him. He absolutely loved the idea to be in the film because he loves like Neutra and Schindler and architecture and all that stuff. And then he was thrilled to be in a film also with Meryl Streep, even though they never met. But you know, they're built together, right? So that he loved that part as well. And that's how we got Udo. Meryl was like one of those things that I think, again, it happens. When you do good, good comes to you. I was approached by this professor from Colby College, Deborah Spark, who is now an associate producer to the film. And Deborah was writing a story about coincidences. And one of the stories she wanted to have was about Schindler and Neutra ending up in the same hospital at the end of their life and becoming friends again. And she was trying to research, and somehow, she was steered in my direction as somebody who knows a lot about the subject. And it was COVID again, and we spent a lot of time on Zoom talking about it, and I helped her a lot. And when she came to LA, she really wanted to help me with something, some way. So she kept asking, like, well, what do you need now? What are you doing? Who's narrating the film? I was trying to get Diane Keaton and Angelica Houston to do it, but I couldn't. And then she just like very casually said, well, she said, I had a postgraduate student that actually is married to Meryl Streep's brother. Do you think I should talk to her? And
Sure, why not,
and
right?
I thought she's dreaming, Used to have postgraduate student. I mean, come on. But I didn't want to be mean.
Right.
So I was like, of course, that would be nice, And then she says, casual again. She says, just as she's coming from Maine, from Portland, Maine, and nothing Hollywood about her, right? So it's a very casually, she says, oh, I have like a second cousin who directed the movie with Meryl Streep once. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, what movie he directed? And she's like, oh, he directed The Devil Wears Prada. The Devil Wears Prada. And I'm like, oh my God.
Heard of that.
Shall
And that
I
was
write to
that,
him
right?
too? Shall I write to him too? I said, well, sure, write to him. But again, I had no hopes because second cousin,
Right.
postgraduate
It seemed a
student.
little far-fetched.
It's a far-fetched, especially when you live in this city and you know how, here things operate. So it's very hard to imagine something happening, materializing. So I totally wrote it off. But sure enough, a month later, I got this email from Meryl's assistant saying she will be delighted to narrate the film. And that's where I was like, my jaw dropped, because I was like, okay, fine, she agrees, but delighted? Like, why she's delighted? But then I traced it, and it was confirmed, my theory, because, I kind of, my brain, I had to figure it out,
Yeah.
because I know she lives in or that's, I was told that she lives in a Spanish colonial style house. She has a
Uh-huh.
house like that in Pasadena. So I don't know if still that's correct, but it wasn't like a modern house. So I was trying
Right.
to figure it out. And then, it kind of all came together when I remembered that she was in a film called The Orchid Thief. I mean, no, the film was called Adaptation, but it was based on a book called The Orchid Thief, which was
Mhm.
written by Susan Orlean. And Susan Orlean and her husband had restored two Schindler houses, the Roth House and then the Callis house after Jackie passed away, and they live there now. And Meryl is friends with Susan, and she has been in both houses, and
Well,
she
there you
heard
go.
plenty about Schindler from them. And suddenly she was really interested in being part of it, I guess, so they, again, it's all about love, they love Schindler, and they kind of put that into her, that appreciation, they brought it to her. And then when this project came to her, she was actually, she was honored to do it. So it was just one of these incredible things that, hard to believe that happens, but it did happen. And after I recorded, I kept saying to people that, she's narrating, and people kept saying, like, are you sure? And I'm like, I recorded her already. And they kept asking, but did you really recorded her? I'm like, yeah.
Like all the stories that you've told about the cinematographers and all these people who came to this, like, it's always not always about Schindler, but the spirit of Schindler and inspired by Schindler,
Very
and
much.
kind of this, it just continues to
Yes.
permeate the environment, right? I mean,
Yes.
and his work and his inspiration.
Yes.
I mean, I just love all of these stories that we're able to connect to these people through Rudolf Schindler and his work,
Yes.
kind of his aura and his spirit. I think it's
I say, like, because it's really, it took a big toll on me, like all these years working on my own, wearing all these different hats, because I had to do a lot of things because I couldn't hire people, using my own savings, asking people for money, which I hate to do, but I had to go and ask people for money and for favors constantly.
Mhm.
So that's really very hard for me, has been that part. But then what came from the film, meeting all these people, learning all these stories,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel so enriched by this experience. And also, for me, it was kind of something that I wanted to do also, like to leave something of substance behind me. Because,
Mhm.
working in the commercial world of music videos, which I did before, it's fun, but it's not something that I feel it's a contribution. And
Sure.
that's something I feel it's important. It will have a value. People will always can go. It's very well researched, can go back to it. They can look at the houses. Unfortunately, many times houses get destroyed. And one
Yeah.
thing that I didn't mention, but I really made sure when we were filming, is that every interior, everything that we filmed is it's something that is authentic, because we didn't film anything that has been redone and somebody just
Yeah.
experiment on their own. So this way, I felt like people, researchers or students, if they want to go and see some space, they really can see the way it was meant to be by Schindler.
Right.
And the same
Right.
thing we did for the Schindler house. We actually I brought, paid to get all the furniture brought into the house, the original furniture in the living room, which usually is in the storage, because I wanted to put it together the way the house was, visualized by Schindler, and he had it when he was alive. So that's also people can see in the film is there.
Chris just said he was fascinated by the woman dancing in the yard. Such a beautiful and poetic addition to the film. I actually thought it was the original footage of Schindler's lover, Jana. I don't know how to say that. Jana. Love knowing all of these wonderful secrets about the film, and I love this film when I saw it and can't wait to see it again. Absolutely incredible.
Thank
You,
you.
Chris.
Thank you so much.
I think, do you have anything else? Maybe we want to wrap this up, Valentina?
I just would like to invite everybody to, if you can support the campaign. I'm still, as I said, I'm still fundraising, because, there's a lot of things that needs to be, we need to buy ads at like places like IndieWire and, Screen International. We need to like do private screenings for the directors, for the documentary branch of the Academy. I want to do a little party that invites all these people and all the contributors during the theatrical release. So if you can support by promoting the theatrical release, coming, seeing the film, or donating on our, website, whatever you could do. We also have
RMS
we have a
document.
fiscal sponsor also. Yeah, we have a fiscal sponsor. So if you have happen to have a foundation or a trust, you could do a tax deductible donations through our fiscal sponsor. And you could just write me if you're interested in contributing services or, or donating anything at the email is rmsdocumentary@gmail.com, which is also on the website. That's the contact information. Because we're trying to find sponsors for like maybe to do a party, all these things, during the theatrical release. So it's not easy to put all that stuff together, but I feel good about it. I think we'll pull it through. We've come that far, so we
This
should
far already, Valentina. I have complete confidence. Does anybody else have any more questions? If not, I want to thank you. I always enjoy talking to Valentina. We've gotten to know each other a little bit through this, and we continue to support each other. I mean, this film is also supportive of the Schindler House and Rudolf Schindler, obviously, clearly. And so we try to support each other with Friends of the Schindler House and this documentary. I will have a recording of this on our YouTube channel, and it'll be up. I'll probably get it up this weekend, so you can check that out as well. And help Valentina, help Friends of Schindler House. And our next talk is actually on October 22nd, which will be with Lisa Germany, who's written a book about one of Rudolf Schindler's mentees, Harwell Harris, and she'll be in conversation with Todd Cronin, who is one of our board members for Friends of the Schindler House. So I hope you can join us then, and I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Guillaume Schindler said, incredible documentary. Thank you so much for your hard and amazing work. And Eric, thanks for doing this. It inspires the rest of us who endeavor to make films like this.
Thank you.
Again. So everybody have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, the Schindler family has been very, very supportive. I just want to say thank you to them, and also to Friends of Schindler House. Robert Sweeney, Judith Chain, always there for me for questions and emotional support, and it's just been wonderful to do this with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know how to get out of here, but